And welcome into the State of Purple. This is the State of Purple podcast. He's Jack Day. I'm AJ Mansour, and we are presented by SodaStick and SodaStick.com. And Jack, we have a very special deal. SodaStick runs these limited edition runs for their T-shirts, and they have a brand new one. I'm going to pull it up on the screen here for our friends that are watching on the stream. The Minnesota football land of 10,000 missed kicks. It's a limited run. Orders can go through the weekend. If you go to sodastick.com and you can place this pre-order for this T-shirt now through the weekend, and you can get this brand new limited edition Soda Stick shirt. And while you're there, Jack, don't forget to throw in the promo code KFAN, and you'll get 15% off your order from Soda Stick. Jack, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Get that shirt. It looks awesome.
Right.
I voted for a different, there's a couple taglines that they tweeted out, but I don't think you can get more perfect than the land of 10,000 missed kicks.
No, that one cuts deep in this state of Minnesota. And it cut deep this weekend for a lot of teams, too, who missed a lot of kicks, but not the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings had a good week, and we are going to start with a quick recap of that week with a friend of ours, a friend of the station's. It's a very special day for this gentleman. We're going to pull him in here. It is the birthday boy, Paul Meatsauce Lambert. How you doing, Saucy?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Hey, we're doing great. Thanks for taking some time to join us to talk a little Minnesota Vikings. I know that this is your birthday, and you're taking time out of your birthday in the middle of nap time, maybe even, to talk Minnesota football with us.
I set an alarm. I took a 19-minute nap on the couch. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go back to taking a nap on the couch, but I'm glad to be here. I feel like I have the wrong hat on.
That's all right. Hey, no, we got this Soda Stick hats on. We're prepared here, but we're good. So we're gonna get lucid, Saucy, today. We're gonna get the best opinions mid nap, maybe dream state. Is that what you're saying?
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. All the above. We'll get all of them.
All right. Well, Jack and I already shared our opinions on the Minnesota Vikings Week 1 victory over the Green Bay Packers earlier this week on our recap episode. But I'd love to hear your opinions. What do you think of this Minnesota Vikings team, the Kevin O'Connell offense, the 3-4 defense? What stood out to you?
Well, my favorite thing that stood out to me, and something that we talked a lot about on the power trip this week, was that for the first time in a long time, we saw this offense move with tempo. We're like, you've stood in the press box or in the Vox box with us, AJ, and we've watched this team down 10, 14, even 3 points late in the game and just move the ball where they'd go full huddle. They'd call plays. They'd lollygag up to the line. They'd look around, they'd maybe change the play, then they'd run the play, and it would get 38 seconds off the clock, and it was like, you guys are losing. They'd almost run the offense like they were ahead. Now they run it with a lot of they had some pep to it. It was good to see that. It was also great to see, maybe my favorite part was how, even with the lead on Sunday, they didn't just run the ball. They passed the ball. They ran I think somebody, I forgot who it was, tweeted it. Even up by 17 or whatever they ran 2 play action passes in the same drive, leading in late in the game. I like to see that. I just like to see that, we would see a 4th down play with this team from last year, and they'd run it right up the middle. They ran a double motion play and ended up just simply running it so they could get Jefferson open. It was just great to see. And then, I don't know, it's weird, but the positivity on the sidelines, I don't think Mike Zimmer hugged anybody except when he shoved Kirk Cousins. I think it got to the point where Kevin O'Connell hugged Adam Thielen so many times. Adam Thielen was tired of it. It was, I don't know, just all around. The whole thing was good. The defense looked good. Now the question is, of course, can Zadarius Smith get up for a non-Packer team? We'll see if he can do that on Monday night, but I just thought it was a good all-around victory and plenty of new stuff that we saw.
Yeah, and Jack, I want to get your opinion on this too. I think that the turning point mentally for me with this new coaching staff and understanding, we all knew that it was going to be different than Zimmer, but actually seeing it come to fruition was that final drive right before the first half when all these things that you just mentioned, Paul, came to fruition in one situation. Nothing came of it. They didn't move the ball. They didn't score any more points, but they get the ball back. There's less than 30 seconds left, or right around 30 seconds left. They're up by a couple scores, and they still are trying to move the ball. They're not running the ball.
Correct.
Mike Zimmer would run the ball on first down, and if he got 10 yards, then he'd call a timeout, and then he'd go down the field. That wasn't the case. They had 2 passing plays, and again, not a whole lot came out of those plays, but still, you're up It's 30 seconds before halftime. You're going to give the ball to the other team, and they still went after it and got it going. And I know, Jack, you mentioned that on Monday, that the mentality of this team really stood out to you as well.
Yeah, and it's not just during the games either. I don't know if you guys have seen this on Twitter this week or not, but the breakdown that O'Connell did with Pete Bursich was absolutely fantastic. That we didn't see that incredible. We didn't see that in the Mike Zimmer era. And on top of that, I know it's a little bit more childish, but Justin Jefferson won the Nickelodeon Player of the Week award, and Kevin O'Connell took the slime out at practice. So we talked about it all off season. The camaraderie.
Can you hang on real quick, Jack? Can you imagine Mike Zimmer getting slimed?
He would have that would have been the last straw. Kirk Cousins would have got punched in the face if that
would have
been
the real fight.
That would have.
He wouldn't have agreed to it.
No,
he would have said no. Yeah.
But it's fun. And I mean, we were talking about it all offseason when they hired O'Connell. The Wilfs are talking about collaboration, and we're kind of seeing that come to fruition now. And I know we're only one game into the season, but seeing it during the games, during practice, during film breakdowns, it's been I know this has kind of been the reoccurring theme that everyone has said, but it's been a breath of fresh air, excuse me. And I think it's exactly what this team needed.
We'll let Jack take that fresh breath air. And Sauce, I want you to tell me, was there anything that concerned you out of that game? It was they were in control most of the game. There was really no moment where it really felt like it was in jeopardy. But you come out of that, it wasn't a perfect game. Did anything stand out to you that they need to get cleaned up as they play probably a better team in Philadelphia this week?
Patrick Peterson. I mean, if Christian, is it Watson? Yep. If he catches that pass, I mean, I don't think they win. Barrero kind of talked about it on Monday, but I don't know but it changes the game completely. But as PA kept saying on his show, I bet they practiced that play 1,000 times in practice. They knew that play would work. They put Watson in motion to get him open against and one-on-one with Patrick Peterson. And A.J. Brown is going to be a challenge this week. Devontae Smith. I mean, they have so many good wide receivers in Philly. That's going to be an issue. But that was the only thing that really bothered me. I thought Ed Ingram played really well. I don't think – I mean, the Bradbury thing with Jordan Davis on Monday is going to probably be an issue. He's huge. But other than that, I think it might have just been Patrick Peterson, but he got bailed out by the drop pass.
He got bailed out. He settled down a little bit, kind of got into the flow. And again, it wasn't dominating, but he didn't get burned like he did on that play the rest of the way. So that was good to see. That 3-4 defense looks a little bit different. I still don't think we know exactly what it's going to be, but what we do know is that Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith are going to bring pressure on whoever it is. As we turn the page, Paul, to Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts is a mobile quarterback. They are a run-first offense that can pass the ball. You mentioned those dangerous wide receivers. Do you think that maybe this pass rush and the inexperience of Danielle Hunter in the 3-4 might get a little exposed this week when you do have that mobile quarterback that can just scoot out to the side?
Well, I think the one thing about that Eagles team is every time you look at like their box score in the fantasy world we live in, almost all of their touchdowns are rushing touchdowns, whether it's Miles Sanders, whoever it is, they get like 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns a game. The 3-4 defense, I mean, I don't know enough about it, but like I would assume it'll be put to the test. But I think they have with Jordan Hicks and his speed, Eric Kendricks and his speed, I think they have the perfect defense to hopefully, slow him down. But I think there's a lot of people who just assume, it's overreaction Monday all week. And they're like, well, we're just going to go in there and roll over the Eagles. I don't know. The Eagles are a really good football team. They got a lot of good wide receivers. Their defense is good. Their offensive line is really good. But it'll be interesting to see what they do defensively to game plan. And it'll be interesting also to I don't want to get nominated for preposterous statement, but it'll be interesting to see what this team does if they trail. They led the whole time on Sunday. It'll be interesting to see how they manage the game if they trail by 7, 10, however many points it is. That tune will change, but the defense has its work cut out for it today. I mean, they scored 38 points against the Lions last week. Not that the Vikings and Lions are comparable, but that offense in Philly can score points, and they're at home. It's their home opener, and it's Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this offense attacks this Philly defense. I think it's very cliche, but this is going to be another one of those games where it's going to come down to a battle of the trenches because Detroit, I think Detroit just put up like a $180 rushing yards on them, and Philly ran against Detroit for over 216. And I think that's a little bit inflated with Jalen Hurts, obviously, kind of like what you were just saying. They're gonna run the ball on teams. And I'm curious to see what defensively, if they pull out any stops to try and if they're going to spy Jalen Hurts, if that means bringing out an extra linebacker like a Brian Asamoah, who we've heard a lot about his speed throughout the offseason. I know Lewis Seen can fly as well. I think he ran like a 4.37 at the combine. I don't know if he's fully ready to go yet or not, but I'm curious to see if they're going to utilize different packages. We've seen it on both sides of the ball. They're not afraid to throw different looks on either side of the ball. And I think this is going to come down to offensively for the Vikings. I think it's going to be a Dalvin Cook game. We just saw DeAndre Swift tear this defense apart up front. And I'm curious to see if that big boy does get in. I think there were some Eagles fans that were kind of upset about how they used why is his name escaping me? You just said it. Who's the big boy from Georgia?
Jordan Davis?
Jordan Davis. I couldn't remember his name, but I think there were some people kind of saying he didn't play as much as they thought he was. I'm worried about him playing more. I don't know if you guys remember the video that came out this summer. It was during Philly training camp, and he absolutely annihilated the center he was going up. I think he pushed him back like 8 to 10 yards. We've seen that happen several times with Garrett Bradbury, and I'm worried about that. But I do think this is going to come down to a battle of the trenches. And I think at the end of the day, if the Vikings come out on top of this one, I think we're going to see a big day out of Dalvin Cook.
No, Paul, I heard Ben Lieber on with you guys maybe earlier. That was today, right? Yeah, today. Talking about Harrison Phillips on defense and how good of a game he played in the trenches there. We talk about that nose tackle position, the importance that it holds in a 3-4 defense. We mentioned a couple times, too, this Philly offense likes to run the ball. They had 4 rushing touchdowns from a couple different players last week. Jalen Hurts likes to get the ball out. What do you think about the importance of that defensive line, Harrison Phillips, that position in the middle there, stopping the run? I mean, this could be the exposure for this team. We still don't know what we have on either side of the ball with this football team after 1 week, but they were able to rush Aaron Rodgers because there were not wide receivers open. Their run game never really got going for the Green Bay Packers. If Philly gets the run game going early, is it going to spell trouble for the Vikings?
Well, I think yes, and I also think that it's easy to get a rush, as you just said, when none of the wide receivers are open. And A.J. Brown's one of the best wide receivers in football. Devontae Smith is really good. They have a couple other guys that are really good. But, those wide receivers are going to get open. But isn't the knock on Jalen Hurts, he isn't the best passer. He's more of a running quarterback than a passing quarterback. But the thing about the Philadelphia Eagles is they will get the running game going. That's what they do. They're like the Vikings of old. They run to set up the pass, but they also run to set up the run, if that makes sense. Where they'll run, and when you think they're going to pass, they run more. I mean, they basically hit with Miles Sanders and the quarterback and a couple other guys. That's their whole thing. They run down. They're like the PJ Fleck offense of pro football, where they chew clock. They can move the ball, though. And having A.J. Brown on the outside is an absolute equalizer, how good he is. It'll be extremely, fun to watch because it's Monday night, and Monday Night Football is the absolute best. But, I don't know how they're going to slow that run down. It's going to be extremely, extremely tough. But if you can slow that down and then you make the Eagles beat you at the pass, I think that's how the Vikings win the game.
Now, Jack, we always look at teams that struggle in the first week, and we say that there's a lot of room to grow. It's week number 1. Don't get too excited. There's going to be more playbook, this development throughout the season. We oftentimes overlook the fact that also goes for teams that win and teams that dominate, that there still is going to be growth for this team there. Do you think that the game play that we see in week 2 is going to look drastically different than what we saw last week?
I think it's going to be a little bit different. And going off of Sauce's point as well, the Vikings weren't fantastic against the run against Green Bay, which it's not easy to do that against Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. But they were, I think it was 6.2 yards per carry that the Packers averaged against the Vikings. And Yes, they came out with a double-digit win against a division rival, but at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to be able to go into Philadelphia. It's already hostile environment. We've heard all the narratives about Kirk Cousins, whether you buy into that stuff or not. It's not going to be an easy place to play. And if they're averaging 6.2 yards per carry with a mobile quarterback, I don't think that the Vikings are going to come out on top if that is the case. So that's the area of the defensively where I think the Vikings, yes, they won. I still think they need to clean some things up there. I don't necessarily, I haven't gone back and watched the all 22 yet, but I don't know how they were beating us. If it was more interior runs or if it was or getting the ball and out on the, excuse me, I'm fumbling all over the place today. If it's getting the ball out on the boundaries, but the biggest thing that worries me is, yes, it's that rushing attack, but it's Jalen Hurts. If the Vikings, they're coming off of a game where they had 4 sacks on mobile-ish quarterback, I think we can still call Aaron Rodgers a mobile quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is a lot more mobile than Aaron Rodgers. And if you're getting to Jalen Hurts, it's going to be absolutely critical that you're getting him to the ground. You're not just wrapping him up and letting him spin out of stuff and create yards after contact with his legs, because that's where Jalen Hurts can beat guys on his own. And quite frankly, the Vikings are going to have to get to him, get him down, and they're going to have to get some sort of push to eliminate the running game.
Paul, it's also the Jalen Reagor revenge game. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think he did a good job of securing every punt because I think he fair caught every punt. But somebody posted the thing of all them talking on the sideline, the Vikings did, and like, I don't know. I mean, I don't follow the Eagles on social media, but at least Jalen Reagor looks happy to be here at least. And I think that, like, if he gets it, I mean, this is a big thing. Like, they gave him up for what was it? Basically a conditional 4th or a 5th round pick that could turn into a 4th round. They gave him away for nothing. I mean, they gave up on him. So
that's a 1st round
maybe
pick.
we'll see him get in the game a little, but yeah.
You guys are
we'll
ruining
see him get in the game a little, but other than that, I don't think so.
My prediction for the walk-off touchdown is a Jalen Reagor house call as a punt return.
There you go. There you go.
Marcus Epps' revenge game as well against the Vikings.
There we go. Clearly, he has some level of talent. You know, it didn't work out in Philadelphia. There is some narrative there. We're kind of facetiously bringing up the Jalen Reagor revenge game, but the guy that we can talk about was, you guys mentioned it earlier, the Nickelodeon Player of the Week, Justin Jefferson. Went gangbusters last week. I think it was 7 catches, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns against what we thought was a pretty good Packers defense. There's no reason that, you know, that those are big numbers. I'm not going to say he's going to do that every week and hit that 3,000 mark that we're all joking about this week, but there's no reason to think that Justin Jefferson up against any cornerback in this league is not going to get his. Fair to say?
Yeah, and I mean, we heard all week that they were going to put their best Jair Alexander on him. They didn't. We saw in the breakdown with Pete. We've seen with the breakdown that Dan Orlovsky and the other guys on ESPN did, where they just put him in motion to get him open, and they found Eric Stokes, and they just dominated that. And that, like, it's like, if you listen to the play call, it's almost like you wonder if Eric Stokes owes PA money, because any opportunity he gets to savage him, he does. It's like, he can't guard him. It's like, man, did he like date a relative of yours? Like, did he not call like your sister back? Like, he hates Eric Stokes, but they got in those positions. I mean, Rodgers after the game called him the best player in the league. You got people on ESPN calling him the best player in the league. How he went from like the 3rd wide receiver. Now, of course, they had some really good talent in LSU, but like, he was the 3rd wide receiver on his team the year he was drafted. And now you could argue he's better than Cooper Kupp, but I think they're 1A and 1B. It doesn't matter. But I don't see how he doesn't get open. I think the Packers secondary is way better than the Eagles secondary. And I saw you posted, AJ. It's the Randy Moss picture with Justin Jefferson's head on it from the old Dallas Cowboys game where he burned them on Thanksgiving. This is Monday Night Football. What a better opportunity than Monday Night Football to show that. I mean, what's a fluke? What if he does 135? We're going to be mad. But like, I would bet he gets close to 100 yards every game. I mean, 150 in the first half. He's that good. They're going to find ways to get him open. He's the Cooper Cup of this offense. He's just that good of a player. I think he has another big game on Monday.
Paul, the question that everybody is wondering, your fantasy teams, how are they doing so far?
I'm 0-1 in one of them. My Guillotine League teams, I'm in 4 of them. I survived every week.
There you go.
Somebody, did you see the Bit Charts tweeted that if you don't know how Guillotine Leagues work, I know you both probably do, but people listening maybe don't. The lowest score out of the 18 teams is out, and their roster goes to the free agent bin, and then everybody has a mythical $1,000. Multiple people in multiple leagues paid $1,000 for Jonathan Taylor. That's your entire budget. I'm bad with money, but that's hideous.
Hey, but if you can get the best running back in the league, I mean, that might be it.
Yeah, but my teams are okay.
And you're surviving the Charts Challenge as well, right? You didn't come in last.
No, Hockey took Austin Eckler, and Austin Eckler got 5 points. Zach took a guy that got hurt and got 2 less points. I mean, hockey. If you're listening to the Power Trip, if you're a Power Trip listener and Hockey picks your guy tomorrow, honestly, bench him. I don't care if it's Jonathan Taylor. Bench him. That's how bad it is.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the punishment will be announced tomorrow on the Power Trip.
Yeah, it's pretty greasy. We added to it. It's one of the worst. It's so bad. We just can't help ourselves.
We'll tune in tomorrow to see what that's going to be. Paul, thank you for the time. Let's get a quick prediction. How do you think that Monday night's game is going to end up? And then we'll let you go, and Jack and I'll close this thing out.
I think the Vikings find a way to win. I think they're the better team. I think they're a really good football team. I think that all this team needed was a better coaching staff. I mean, Rick Spielman is probably smiling somewhere because I think 10 out of 11 players on offense are his players, other than Ed Ingram. He drafted them all or brought them all in, or he's just making weird TikTok videos about it. I think the Vikings win 27-20. I just think they're the better team. I think they're a really good football team, and I think they win on Monday night, and people start to take even more notice than they already have.
It could be a fun year. Paul, thank you for the time. I will see you tomorrow morning. Got a big initials matchup on the Power Trip, and we'll find out that Fantasy Charts Challenge punishment. So we'll talk to you later, man.
Tomorrow will be the only time I'll ever be cheering for you. I hope you win tomorrow.
There we go. Sounds good.
I hope
we'll
you win 12-0. I really do. Break the record tomorrow, please.
I'll do what I can.
Bye.
All right, see you, buddy.
You're the best. Bye, brother.
Bye. All right, there he is. Meatsauce Paul Lambert. He has come, he has conquered, and he has shared all of his knowledge in the Minnesota Vikings. It's fun to have him. Fun to just shake it up a little bit, Jack. I think we'll do that from week to week now, is get some guests in, get some people who know what they're talking about from different things than we do, but also just a different voice. I think it's a fun little addition. I know you're leveraging some other guests as well later on in the season. We'll see. Hopefully we can get those as well set up. But Jack, any closing thoughts that you have? This will be the last time that we talk leading up to Monday night. It's a little bit of an off schedule. Today is the Wednesday schedule, if you will, for the Vikings at TCO. They're going to fly out to Philadelphia over the weekend and then game day on Monday night. So everything's pushed back a day. We don't have any injury reports yet. I don't think there's anything we're worried about, but how are you feeling about this game?
I'm feeling pretty good, and I think that's with caution. I'm approaching the game with caution. I'm curious to see, we've talked about it already after one victory, how different everything feels. You can take that a step further and go win in prime time in a spot where traditionally the Vikings don't have a lot of success playing outdoors in prime time, whether you want to tie that to Mike Zimmer, whether you want to tie it to Kirk Cousins, whatever you want to do. That's all out the door now, and this is a whole new regime. So I'm just kind of curious to see how they go into this, how they process things. And like I said, I am slightly concerned about the running game that Philly is going to try to establish against the Vikings. I think Jalen Hurts is going to cause this defense some fits. And I could be wrong when I say that, but it was 90 rushing yards and a touchdown against Detroit with an additional 200 something through the air. And if the Vikings can contain Jalen Hurts, I really like the Vikings' chances in this one. And I don't know if there's still that sour taste left in his mouth. Obviously, we were talking about this with the Jalen Reagor stuff, but the Eagles were one of those final teams to pass on Justin Jefferson. I know they kind of have a revamped secondary. They're a little bit better. They have Bradbury and Darius Slay back there. So I'm curious to see that matchup. But you got to believe that Justin Jefferson still has a bad taste in his mouth after that. He doesn't forget that. Then they go out and they get Jalen Reagor. I think it would be a cherry on the top. I think I speak for the majority of the state of Minnesota. They still probably have a pretty sour taste in their mouth, and you and me maybe a little bit more in particular, having to watch that Super Bowl in the stadium and listen to Fly Eagles fly consecutively over and over and over again. But I think the Vikings go out to Philadelphia, and I think they get it done with another strong performance from Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and company. But like I said earlier, I do think this is a Dalvin Cook game where I think the Vikings also have to match what Philly's trying to do on offense. And I think they're going to have to establish the run, get Kirk Cousins out and some play action after that, and then hit Justin Jefferson with some of these crazy crossing patterns that we've seen in the new style Kevin O'Connell offense.
Yeah, I do think that it is important for the Vikings to control the narrative in this game. And you do that by scoring first. You control the ball, you get the points on the board first, and you change the way that the rest of the game goes. If your defense can stop them, if you can get a score and keep, hopefully adding on there, you get to dictate how the game flows. You don't have to run more than you want. You can still pass. You can call the plays that you planned and do that. I think that that's still important for this team. It won't always be, but week 2, new regime, new offense, new this, new that. I think it is important for you to control the narrative and kind of do what you know works best for you and your team right now. That being said, you mentioned containing Jalen Hurts, the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not even as afraid of Jalen Hurts running the ball for positive yardage as I am afraid of him maybe just moving out of the pocket, the play breaking down, and those wide receivers, the veteran wide receivers. This is what Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers didn't have last week. Aaron would scramble. He'd get out of the pocket. He'd feel the pressure. He'd step up. He'd go out to the side, whatever it was. And he didn't have that rapport that he used to have with Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams that just knew how to get open, that sixth sense that he had with his receivers to know that somebody's going to be here if I scramble out of the pocket. And he ended up holding onto the football and taking some of those weird sacks way out on the sidelines in this last game. That's what the Eagles are going to try to do as well. Move the pocket, whether it's a designed bootleg or whatever to get him out of the pocket, but move the pocket. And if that wide receiver core, veteran A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who has some experience, but a veteran-led wide receiver group, if they can get that rapport with their quarterback when he moves out of the pocket, that's a dangerous thing for any defense, let alone a defense that we don't exactly know what we have. And we do still have some concerns on depth and speed on the back end of that defense. So I think that is where the Vikings need to shore things up. I do think that, like you, I think that the Vikings are going to come out on top. I don't think it's going to be quite as high scoring of an affair as we've seen for some of these other games, or specifically for that Philadelphia game last week. But they also gave up points to the Detroit Lions, right? I mean, they gave up a lot of 180 yards plus on the ground, you said, and they gave up a lot of points. I think it was at least 28 points, right?
It was 35. I think they only
35.
won. Detroit made it closer than what the game seemed, but I think the final was 38-35.
Right. So their defense will give up points. And I think that this offense is good enough to get points. And I think they're going to get more points. I'm going to, what'd you say? You said 27-20?
That was Sauce. I'm going,
Sorry.
yeah, I haven't said yet. I'm going with, and I'll say this. I wanted to say one more thing too about defensively. And O'Connell was talking about this too on a couple of the plays. I was worried about this after not watching the starters play in the preseason. I feel like it's pretty standard to feel that way, but I was worried about the Vikings and their physicality levels, and it didn't seem to phase them. They played physical. I think it was the goal line 4th and 1 stand with A.J. Dillon where Za'Darius got to him first on the outside. But Kevin O'Connell was highlighting this. There's like 9 purple helmets around him in that play, ready to hit him. And I think that's one of the most important things in football. I mean, I remember doing that drill over and over in high school where it's picking a lane and having all 11 guys on defense not a lane. That's not what word am I looking for? Picking an angle, an attack angle, and like getting back to the guy with the ball in his hands. And I think that the Vikings showed enough on defense. I'm not going to sit up here and say, hey, this team's going to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's the case quite yet, but I was pleasantly surprised with the physicality that they brought and the levels of contain that they had. It just felt like in years past, there were players that you'd see kind of walking and not getting themselves in the play. It doesn't feel like this is that type of feel again, if you will, where there's going to be that the lackadaisical players that are kind of just not there to actually get their nose in the dirt and play dirty football. And I think we saw that was Za'Darius, and it all started up front and kind of went throughout the defense. But I think my score prediction, I've kind of gone back and forth on this because I am a little bit nervous about this one, but I'm feeling confident. I think the Vikings come out on top. I'm going to go 31-28 and feeling hopeful that last field goal is continued progress with the special teams unit.
I think I feel similar, but I'm going to pull the reins back a little bit and go 24-20 with the Minnesota Vikings coming out on top. So we'll see. I mean, we're feeling really good about this football team right now, and it could come back to reality really quickly too. So it is Monday night. It is a good football team that, Philadelphia has to prove themselves as well, right? They were one of the sexy picks leading into the season, but they haven't done anything yet. They beat Detroit, and they gave up a lot of points to Detroit. So they have some stuff to prove as well. It's a home game for them. That's an advantage. It's a Monday night game. Who knows who gets the advantage on that? But it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be closer than maybe the people buying in and drinking all the purple Kool-Aid want to say right now. But I do think that the Vikings are the better football team when it all comes down to it. Jack, let's go one more reminder here. Our sponsor, Soda Stick, has a limited edition shirt available this week. You can pre-order it through the weekend. It's this one right here on the screen. If you're watching no, not that one. That's the old one. Boom, here's this one. The Minnesota football land of 10,000 missed kicks with the old school football helmet. You can see it on the screen, or if you're listening to this podcast right now, head over to sodastick.com. You can see it right there. You can place your pre-order, and you can get 15% off if you put in that promo code KFAN when you check out at the checkout lane. So Minnesota football shirts available through this weekend. Pre-order at SodaStick. Use that promo code KFAN. Jack Day, I'm not going to see you. I'm on vacation. We're doing our own thing. I won't see you or talk to you until next Tuesday for a week. I mean, I'm sure we'll text or something, but have a great weekend, man. It's going to be a beautiful, partially rainy, but a good weekend here in Minnesota in the fall. And it all culminates with Monday Night Football from Philadelphia, 7:30. You can listen to it on the Fan. Don't forget, you can find old episodes of the State of Purple podcast on the iHeartRadio app, iTunes, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And for those of you who are watching along, we appreciate it. This is an interactive chat. We do record this live, so you can let us know what you're thinking, what you like about the Minnesota Vikings, how you feel about the Philadelphia Eagles, and what you think about Jack Day's awesome Soda Stick hat that he has on. Self-serving, because I have the same hat on as well. But it's a fun time. We appreciate the community that we're building over here as well. So, Jack, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend, man. And go
too.
Vikes. Go Vikes. Skol Vikes. Let's go. Let me trigger my closer here. Wasn't prepared. See you later, everybody.